The Battle of the Philippine Sea was said to be one of the last great carrier battles of World War II. A carrier is a great big boat that is so big it can store planes and has a runway for takeoff and landing. Going into battle, the Japanese were down a couple of carriers because of a battle in 1942. And to add to that, the Japanese couldn't properly anchor their carriers due to American submarines. Therefore, they couldn't get in proper flight training to land on the boats mid-sea. The Japanese had a plan called a go. They were certain that if they sat tight and waited, then the Americans would come to them. This way, the Japanese could station on pre-conquered islands and have the upper hand in combat. But the Americans never came. Turns out they were on a completely different place than originally thought that they were in the Central Pacific. They were stationed in Saipan. The Japanese advanced towards the Americans on June 15th, trying to secretly attack. They failed. By June 18th, the Americans saw the Japanese from a submarine and readied themselves. On June 19th, 204 planes from the Japanese came at the Americans from 3 different angles, but the Americans were ready. The Americans shot down the planes from the air, not giving them a chance to land, and the submarines torpedoed the carriers. In the end, the Japanese lost 3 carriers and the others were badly damaged. It is said they almost ceased to exist after the Battle of the Philippines was done with them. Going into the night, the fighting was dying down, and the Americans knew that they were winning, no doubt. If they could just finish up the job now, they would be victors. Just one problem. To conceal themselves from the enemy, they had turned off all the lights. Without any lights, planes can't land. If they were to send out the pilots again, they risk water landings, or turning on the lights could risk revealing them. Mark Mitcher was the admiral who decided that yes, indeed, they would risk it. He sent out the pilots to finish off the job. Then he literally put lights all over his body in order to guide the pilots in. Still yet, a couple planes landed in the ocean and several were damaged on the landing. Yet, the Americans emerged from the Battle of the Philippines from June 19th to June 20th victors.